But I am concerned, although I look forward to working with him. Frankly, there isn't much that I agree with that he suggested today, other than the fact that we need to give an incentive to bring business investment to Illinois, to bring jobs for Illinois families. Today, what he outlined in a very short period of time, I thought was not doing enough in some areas, but mostly concerned about the fact that this budget doesn't do anything to bring the 250,000 jobs that we've lost in just this last 12 months. The Department of Labor Statistics says that in the last 12 months, the first 12 months of Governor Quinn's administration, this state, the families in this state, lost over 250,000 jobs. That's over 650 jobs each and every day. I don't think it's going to work to bring business investment back and private sector jobs when you increase taxes on families 33% or $3 billion. It's not going to work to bring business investment back to this state and jobs when you send a message that we're not going to solve our fiscal crisis, we're going to try to borrow our way out of this with record borrowing. And it's not going to solve this problem when you ignore the fact that your deficit in this year doesn't meet the laws of this land and begins to bring about a record debt. I have never seen such a fiscal plan that is such a disaster. As you know, my focus has been what can we do to foster private sector investment back in Illinois for Illinois jobs. I'm concerned that this budget sends the wrong message to Illinois families, to Illinois taxpayers, and to the business community who we need so desperately to reinvest in Illinois for Illinois families. Be happy to respond to any questions.
How would you balance next year's budget, sir?
Pardon me?
What about the $2,500 tax credit for jobs? He smiled when he said that?
You know, he's moving in the right direction, but unfortunately he doesn't understand that we need all business investment. To limit it to businesses, and although I'm a small businessman, to limit it to businesses fewer than 50 employees doesn't attract the entire economic opportunities that we need to attract. Recently we lost a Honda plant to Indiana because we were not a competitive place to do business. We need to attract large and small businesses. That's why my tax credit, which is available immediately, $2,100 tax credit to all businesses, will bring more jobs to this state than what his will. But I do want to compliment him. He finally is getting the fact that we have to foster business investment. I just hope he's genuine in trying to reach that.
How would you pay the bills next year, Senator? Next year, how would you pay the bills?
You've talked about borrowing before, so why rapidly for borrowing money when you talked about it?
A family, a business, and government cannot borrow unless it's got a plan to pay it back. You know, he and Rod Blagojevich have built up a record pension debt, $75 billion that we're leaving the taxpayers with, children and grandchildren. Now he's providing a record. He's almost doubled. I mean, we've got a $15 billion debt problem outside of the pension that he's created. He has no plan to pay it back. You have to reconcile yourself to a fiscal plan that is balanced so that you can begin paying back that backlog of unpaid bills. This is a catastrophe. He could, you know, in the financial markets, I'm not sure he can get a loan for this when you don't have a mechanism to pay it back. It seems to me that what he's simply doing here is ignoring the problem, kicking the can down the road, trying to make it past the election. I frankly wonder if he's planning on being here in January because he's leaving a pretty big problem.
Senator, how would you pay the bills?
Mary Ann,
what about income tax for education? Is that a seller in any way?
You know, it doesn't make any sense to me. You know, he wants to cut education 17%, and then kind of in a fleeting moment, he talks about a huge tax increase, 33%. We cannot increase taxes in this state. All we're going to do is push more jobs out of this state. We have to reconcile our spending. Now, I've been criticized. You all know that I've laid out a plan that says we'll have to cut spending overall at least 10%. I believe we've got to balance our budget and begin building an Illinois that is balanced and works for the people of Illinois. It was ironic to me that he didn't think 17% cuts in education were draconian. But given the fact of the reality of what I think he's dealing with, we're going to continue to talk about balancing the budget, bringing business investment to this state, not digging a deeper hole in terms of borrowing, and reducing the tax and fee burden. The only solution we have is to bring business investment to this state for Illinois families to create Illinois jobs.
How would you pay next year's bills?
I'd balance the budget. I would balance, you asked how I'd balance the budget, I've outlined a program. I've said we've got to reduce spending. We have got to deconstruct our budget and reconstruct a budget that's balanced. And I've taken the bold step, criticized by many, of saying that means we have to reconstruct a budget that is at least 10% less. Now, I'm a small businessman. I know a lot of small and large businesses that have had to deconstruct and reconstruct their budget to live within their means in these difficult economic times. The state of Illinois has to do the same thing. But I wouldn't attack one area of state spending, like education. He attacked education, leaving other areas. In fact, increasing Medicaid funding by over $500 million at the expense of our school children. I've said there has to be a shared responsibility in this solution. I think that's what Illinois wants. They don't want a governor who's going to attack one segment of Illinois and not another, and not deal with another.
Is your 10% the general
So how are you planning to cut the budget? Wait, are you backing off your proposal?
The question was, no, I'm not backing off. I have said I will balance my first year's budget. The Constitution requires a balanced budget. I don't think that means borrowing $4 billion and saying your budget's balanced. I've said that it would require at least 10% cut in spending. Now, that's going to be tough. We're going to have to roll up our sleeves and we're going to have to do it, but the people of Illinois have done it, we have to do it. I'm not backing off of anything. I've said every area of state government, with the exception of bond payments, needs to be deconstructed, reconstructed, and reconciled within state spending. Now, I do want to say, I think I've spent nearly half as much time here as he spent in his whole budget address. I don't think this budget has been taken as seriously as it should have been. I'm afraid that he's just trying to get beyond this time and go get to the elections, and that's unfortunate because we have serious problems. Illinois families and businesses are looking for responsible leadership. Responsible leadership doesn't provide its citizens with a record deficit, with borrowing $4 billion to fund operations and a 33% tax increase.
Is your 10% cut just general revenue fund or is it total budget?
What?
Is your 10% just a general revenue fund cut or a total budget cut?
What I've said, in business, in our families, we have to look at every dollar we spend. I have said that everything, with the exception of our bond payments, needs to be considered in the total budget package. People like Pat Quinn, who want to simplify it and say we can only deal with half of the budget, are misleading. They don't get the picture. Illinois families and businesses can't leave one area. You can't just say, we're going to keep spending money by going out to restaurants that only cover this area. We've got to deal with the whole area. I, as governor, am going to deal with the entire spending plan, deconstruct and reconstruct a plan that's balanced, that pays down our debt, and that the people of Illinois can believe in.
The Quinn administration.
What'd you say?
He called you out during your speech a little bit. He made references to your cuts. Did you take that personally at all?
Not at all. I wish he'd take more time to analyze what I've suggested Illinois needs. I really don't want to be governor and be saddled with the albatross that he's created in this fiscal mess. So I'm more than willing to help him through this process in a bipartisan fashion, but he's got to understand we can't increase taxes, we can't dig a deeper hole, and we can't live in the world of deficits. The people of Illinois are looking for responsible leadership. I'll provide that.
So there's what happens to plans about $2 or $3 billion. What do you do for the rest of it?
There's at least $40 to $45 billion that you can cut and reconstruct. In addition to that, I've said we need a managed care Medicaid. We can save money by providing access to health care at earlier stages of an illness for our Medicaid recipients. We have one of the worst, if not the worst, managed Medicaid systems in the country. Governor Quinn has proven that he failed once again. He's asking for another $500 million in addition to the dollars he spent over and above what he was allocated last year. Let's just face it. The people of Illinois deserve leadership that is going to balance a budget and live within our means. As governor, I will do that. Today was an embarrassing day. He asked for an extra 30 days, and yet the best he could come up with was a budget that was $4 billion out of balance, a budget that left our vendors holding $6 billion in unpaid bills. That's not responsible. That's not the type of government I'm going to run.
Thank you all.
Thank you.